Hello and welcome to the 741 channel. Thank you for stopping by. I bought the cheapest tent I could find on Amazon and today we're going to take a look at it. And the reason I needed a cheap tent is because I'm going to be going on a solo camping trip of sorts in about a month, and I needed something small and lightweight that I could put in a suitcase and bring on a plane. And chances are I'm never going to use this thing again since I usually go camping with my family. So I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a good tent. So I looked around on Amazon and bought the cheapest one I could find. So all packed up in the included bag, the tent is about 23 inches long, about 4.5 inches wide, and about 3.5 inches thick. So included in the kit is a small rain fly. We get a bag with 4 metal tent stakes and 2 sets of interconnected fiberglass poles. So to set the tent up, the first thing I'll do is stake down the corners. Grab one of the metal stakes and put it through the small hole that's in this plastic piece at the corner of the tent. So next up, I'll grab the tent poles and just put them together by unfolding them and locking the tubes into the collars. So now what I'll do is start from one corner and thread the tent poles through these seams toward the opposite corner. So there's a gap in the seam at the middle of the tent. So once I get to the gap, I'll make sure I line up to the opposite seam and keep threading it through. And of course what happens is as I thread this through, the material gets caught on the metal collars. So as I push it through, I just have to unbind it. So once I've got that first pole through and roughly centered in the tent, I'll thread the other one through the opposite corners. So what I'm going to do now is insert the end of the tent pole into this hole that's in the plastic tab at the corner of the tent. So as I insert the end of the tent pole into that hole, I'm going to lift up sort of on the center of the tent pole as I do that. Once that's in place, I'm going to go to the opposite corner and sort of push up on the tent pole and slide it through the seam and get the other end of the pole in the hole in the opposite plastic tab. Now I'll repeat the process on the other pole. So now at the top of the tent, I'll tie off these ribbons to where the tent poles cross to give it a little extra support. So now I'll put the rain fly over the top and hook these plastic hooks to these black straps that are on the side of the tent. Okay, so that's it. We've got everything set up. Let me bring the camera in and let you guys have a closer look at this thing. So starting up at the top with the rain fly, you can see it's obviously small. It's just big enough to cover the air vents in the top of the tent, and that's it. So this thing may not hold up in a heavy rain, but it ought to do just fine with overnight dew and maybe a light rain. So overall fit, finish, and quality of materials is actually not too bad given the price point of this tent. If you look close, there's a few defects in the stitching here and there, and the material is a little bit thin, and of course, like on the Rainfly, they kind of skimped where they could, but overall, it's not bad. So the door of the tent is sort of a dual design with the weather flaps on the outer part and screen on the inner part. And as you'd expect, the zippers are adequate, but they're fairly light duty, so you want to be careful with those. And of course, for the outer flaps of the doors, you can roll them up and use this ribbon to tie them off. And again, just like everything else on this tent, the screen material on the door is relatively thin and feels like it could rip fairly easily, but adequate for light duty use. So looking inside the tent, the floor is made of sort of a heavier canvas type material that should be at least adequate for keeping the ground moisture out. But again, like everything else on the tent, it's a little bit thinner than you might expect and probably subject to wear out. And then inside the tent, there is a little storage pouch for keys and wallet, things like that if you need to use it. I'm able to lay down in the tent fully stretched in the middle. But having said that, I'm 5'6" tall. So if you're any taller than me, you're probably gonna have to lay diagonally in this tent. So with that in mind, I'd consider this a 1 adult tent. 2 kids could probably sleep in here side by side as long as they got along pretty well with each other. So what I think I'll do now is take the tent down and see how it packs up. So there it is, all packed up in the bag. That's actually not too bad. I've had much more expensive tents that I could never get back into the bag that they came with. If you want to learn more about this tent, I'll leave an affiliate link down in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.